Hey everybody, this is Brian,
And this is Becca.
and this is Streaming with the Lights On podcast, our podcast where we chat about a movie of the week
A horror movie.
that is streaming.
A horror movie.
Yeah, this is a podcast where we chat about a horror movie once a week that is streaming that you can get on any of your streaming platforms: Netflix, Hulu, Shudder, Hoopla, Tubi, Peacock, everything. You name it, we cover it. And I had a brain fart there. Yeah, you're listening to the very first episode
Very first episode.
of what's hopefully going to be a very long-standing podcast.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Y'all decided to open this podcast and give it a listen, so...
It was a mistake.
No, not by mistake. If you love horror movies as much as we do, and you're as messed up as we are...
Or you are Becca's parents, then you are more than welcome here.
Yes, you have come to the right place for your ears. Yeah, we're starting this podcast kind of hopefully post-pandemic.
We're on like the tail end of the pandemic.
Let's hope so.
Well, I believe to date the podcast, the vaccine is now available to all adults over the age of 16.
Woohoo!
So I think hopefully we are on the tail end.
Yeah, hopefully by the time you're listening to this, we don't have to worry about this shit anymore.
Yeah, hopefully. A fake optimism in my voice.
What better time to have a podcast about what's streaming than when you're stuck at home?
And for those of you like me that, did not leave your house pre-pandemic, then this podcast is especially for you because you're not going to leave after the pandemic. So shout out to you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, us hermits, let's stick together, man.
That reminds me of one of my favorite memes I saw when the pandemic hit. It was of Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, and it says, it's him sitting in a chair in a kitchen by himself, and it says me before the pandemic, and then it says me after the pandemic, and it's the same picture but with toilet paper next to him.
That is basically me. That's me. So back to the podcast. The Brian joke aside, the first movie we chose to watch is a movie called Let's Scare Julie, which came out last year, and I think it just came to streaming services not too long ago. But you can currently watch it on Amazon Prime, Hoopla, which is a free streaming service offered by a lot of libraries in the United States. So definitely look into that if you have a library card,
Yes.
because it is not often that there are free streaming services. So definitely look into Hoopla. Canopy is the other one as well, spelled with a K. And then it's also available on Shudder, which is my favorite streaming service. So shout out to Shudder for being awesome. We are not sponsored, but
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, not like we have a podcast that just sponsors a streaming service every week.
Let's Scare Julie was directed by Judd Cremata. Do you want to read the little synopsis? Because I know you always either find the really long ones.
I've got a short one.
Oh, off-brand. You're off-brand already.
I know, right? Terror strikes when teenage friends hatch a plan to scare a reclusive girl who lives in a house rumored to be haunted.
Yeah, I guess let's just get into it. The movie is short. Wasn't it like 83 minutes?
Yes.
And it's a movie that is in real time. So if you've seen something like Silent House, it's like that, where it's,
Yeah.
I think there was maybe like one cut because it was also made to look like it was a one-shot movie.
Yeah, well, I just liked the title. So that's one reason I picked this as our first episode. I just thought, hey, that's a neat title right there.
I'm so curious to find out what you thought about this movie, because I'm pretty sure that we don't have the same opinion on it.
Yeah, disclaimer for our listeners. Becca and I usually don't agree, even though we both love horror, so that makes it kind of fun.
Right. We occasionally we do agree, but most of the time not.
Yeah.
And I feel like now that I'm predicting what you're going to think about this movie, I'm going to be wrong. Yeah, where do you want to start with?
Oh boy, where to start? Well, start from the beginning. I was really digging the intro credits, as short as they were. I really liked the kitschy sort of 1960s
Hitchcock feel.
Yeah, Hitchcock, or just like it felt very dated, which is funny because I mean, it definitely felt like a nowadays movie, like very present. But those intro credits were super 60s, and
Funny because I hated the intro credits. So already off to a banging start.
we are off to a banger. So yeah, the first two things, my first two impressions of the movie were I really dug the intro credits, and I really hated all the girls except for Emma, who's kind of our star.
Okay, so let's start with them. As somebody who was a teenage girl for way too long, I put in my note the realism between the teenage girls was too real. I don't know if you credit the actors on acting like teenage girls or if they were just acting like themselves. I don't know. I maybe recognized one of them. I don't think that they're well established yet, so I can't really speak to which of those options it was. But they got under my skin so quickly,
Yeah,
almost immediately. And it was because they were pretty dang realistic. And as somebody who was in her early 30s, I always thought it was cliche, the whole idea of teenagers thinking that they know everything and thinking that they are invincible. But I definitely think having been a teenager and having a good deal of distance away from those years, you do think you know everything. And that's just your hormones and everything, and your brain is developing, all of that stuff. It's completely justified. Does not make it any less annoying.
yeah. So sorry to any of our teenage listeners, if there are any. We love you, but you know you're a teenager.
As Nick Miller would say in New Girl.
No, that was Schmidt.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm in love with Nick Miller, so that's why he comes first.
I totally agree with you, but at the same time, you know, like I don't think either of us calls that like a knock against the movie.
No, I
I mean,
think
that
it
was
works. I think it works in the favor, and I'll kind of explain that as we get more into the movie itself.
yeah, it did a really good job
But
of like,
I go ahead.
yeah, y'all, we just talk over each other sometimes. Get used to it. I think that like I really hated the girls that I think I was supposed to, and I think that the movie just did a really good job of like throwing me into a group of teenage girls having a night together, and I was already getting anxiety. I could feel Emma's anxiety from that one scene with all of them in the bedroom. And I was like, I'm ready for these girls to die.
I I don't know if I was ready for. I didn't hate them to the point that I was ready for them to die. I was just like, oh my God, I'm getting an old person headache. I cannot take this. And I think outside of them being teenage girls, the whole plot of the movie is Let's Scare Julie, where they're trying to play a prank. And the movie opens with some of them playing a prank on Emma. And as somebody who is not a pranking person, I have never understood or related to that urge to scare somebody. Like I don't relate to that, and I don't like it. So I really did not resonate with that aspect of the movie. But again, it's definitely something that a lot of teenagers do. Unfortunately, a lot of adults do. Some people don't grow out of it. But I did want to add a little side note. I don't know if you've seen this movie or not, but it did give me vibes of a movie that I watched like a year or two ago. I don't remember when, but it's called Don't Hang Up.
No.
And it's kind of a similar vibe with these really obnoxious teenage boys prank calling people to the point it gets them in trouble.
Yeah, no, and I say all this with knowing that I was a little shit when I was a teenager, so I'm no
Oh,
saint
were you?
either.
We wouldn't have been friends.
No, probably not. Probably not.
Barely friends now.
I know for a fact we would not have been friends.
I like what you said about anxiety because I think it does definitely keep you anxious in an uncomfortable way. It's not like building excitement. It's like you know what's going to happen, but they make you wait for it. And they make you wait quite a long time for what you know was going to happen.
Right.
And that's why I think that the whole extended opening of them just being obnoxious teenagers worked so well.
Right.
Especially as an adult, it really just added to just the uncomfortable anxiety that was happening.
And I think it also did well at setting up believability for why they would do something as stupid as they do. Because, like, you get the idea that that's just who these kind of girls are.
Right, right, and they definitely kind of you see why Emma kind of participates because just the peer pressure of it, the trying to become friends with, these new people in a new environment. She doesn't want to come off as a loser, which she, has says in the film. So I think it does a good job of explaining Emma's part in it as well as the other girls.
Yeah, I think so too. And I kind of like that when they do pull their prank and sneak over to the other house. I like that we don't go with them.
Yes.
I like that we stayed with Emma and the sister because, like, I just assumed we were going to go over to the house.
I kind of did too. But it kind of made sense because the movie starts with Emma. So you're with Emma's POV the entire movie.
That's true. One reason I like that is that oftentimes, if not all the time, in horror, this might be a hot take.
I don't think that's a hot take.
What we imagine is worse than what we see. What we imagine could have happened to those girls is way more terrifying than actually seeing what happens, which we kind of see stuff near the end of the film, but I'll save
Right.
that.
And I think I definitely agree that it was a good thing that we did not go to the house. It would have been a completely a worse movie if we had. But I feel like in the part that we don't know what happened, instead of leaving it more mysterious, it kind of got a little messy for me, which maybe I missed this part. But I feel like the part where Emma's cousin, which her and her sister moved in with, Taylor, that's her name. It's randomly said that she left the prank to go to the airport to pick up her mom.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I missed that at the beginning, but it completely came out of nowhere. And I was like, what the fuck? And please, if somebody heard that and I just missed it, let me know, and I'll take away my messy comment because it just could have been me missing it. It
I
did
will
get
say,
messy because it just felt like there wasn't a reason to take her out of it other than maybe her trying to be the sane one on the phone towards the end of the movie. It didn't feel like there was a reason, and it was.
now that we're talking about it, it got me thinking to a point that really confused me. At some point in the movie, they say, oh, she went to the airport. But before they say that, I could have swore that they call her and she's like crying and screaming. And then when she hangs up, they can't
No,
get
that
hold
was
of her.
the girl with the blue hair in her braid. Jess.
Oh,
Yeah, that was
right.
Jess.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Now, okay. Well, you know what? If we're just jumping into this movie as a fly on the wall and seeing these teenage girls at their friend's house, I would buy that
I don't.
when they're hanging out, they don't bring it up because it's not like it's exposition that maybe they wouldn't naturally say.
I get that, but at the same time, these girls are what, 15, 16, maybe 17 at the max. And I get that her father is passed out drunk downstairs.
Right.
But to have your teenage daughter pick you up from the airport that late at night,
Yeah, pretty irresponsible.
it doesn't make sense to me why she would go out with them for the prank and be so excited and on board to do the prank
Right.
if she had to leave even before the prank started because she knew she had to pick her mom up from the airport.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably one of my biggest issues, and it's so weird because it's such a minor thing, but it just completely took me out of the movie because I was like, where did that come from? How is that a thing?
I'll bring one thing up that was early in the movie and pretty much through the whole movie that I didn't like, and that was music. It's no stab against the music or the composer. It's more like, is this appropriate for this kind of movie? If you're going to do a movie that is supposed to be in real time, quote unquote real time, like all one take, I highly suspect it may not have all been one take, but when you make that a point for your movie, you're kind of forcing them to suspend their disbelief even more than a regular movie, because it's supposed to feel as natural as possible. And like the last thing I would expect is something filmy to come up and pop up into the movie. I guess what I'm getting at is I can't say from personal experience that I've ever had like a ghost or witch follow me from my neighbor's house, but I can tell you that if it did, I don't think I'd start hearing random movie music playing to narrate my life.
I agree. I think the addition of the music was kind of an odd choice, especially when they were doing a good job with building the suspense and the tension in the movie. They didn't need that extra step of adding the music to do that. And I agree that it takes you out of that suspension of disbelief, because if it's supposed to be happening in real time, like you said, nobody really has dramatic music in the background of their life.
The one that really bugged me was like when the girls go do their prank and the first girl comes back and she's like sobbing and like scared and Emma thinks that she's just fucking with her. And then together they find the second girl, and she's like wrapped up and laying on the floor in their bedroom. But she's totally fine. She's just messing with them. It's such an obvious jump scare they're building up to that the music ruins it, because it's like such an obvious sting build up of like the music's getting louder, louder, and then it stops, and then she scares you. I'm like,
and
right.
I'm glad that you brought up the jump scares, because I think that they were unnecessary in this movie. And I'm not talking about like later on where somebody who shouldn't be there passes by a doorway and you jump. That's not the
Right.
jump scare I'm talking about. Just the really obvious ones that were not necessary in this movie. I'm
Yeah.
not like an anti jump scare person, because it can be fun to jump at something. It's very rare that they make me jump anymore, just because the volume of horror movies I've seen. But I'm not anti, they can add something to a movie, definitely. But I think that they weren't needed in this one. And
Right.
they were just trying to do that classic popular jump scare. And I think it took away from the movie, unfortunately. I wanted to add, you mentioned the second girl, Madison, coming back.
Yeah.
The fact that she said that she didn't go into the house for the prank, it didn't make any sense. She didn't give a reason why. Maybe it was so that she could go back into the house. Yeah, that was another one little plot hole that I didn't understand. Like, just the whole first prank they do is just messy in not a good horror film way. It's messy in the fact that it didn't feel like it was fully figured out in terms of like the script and
Yeah.
all of that. It just didn't make sense.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is like it wasn't good in the way of being like messy in a genuine way,
Right.
in an authentic, realistic way, but messy in like a we don't know what to write for this beginning of the movie. Let's just have them do this.
Like the last season of Game of Thrones, kind of messy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I came
Yeah.
out swinging. I said what I said.
There are definitely moments moving forward that I do think worked, and again, I don't think they had music, but like one very tense moment that I thought really worked was the bit of Emma coming in to the house and having a moment with Uncle Vince where he's like got presumably blood or something all over him.
Very light colored blood.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's ragu. I don't know. Maybe he had spaghetti. He seems like a guy that would. I mean, if I had as messed up of an experience as he allegedly did, and accidentally shot a little kid, I would probably be in that state too.
Was it a little kid or was it a woman?
It was a boy. Remember, he says like, I picked up my gun. I didn't realize it was on. Accidentally pulled the trigger. Went through the window, and he said the cops came over, and the boy wasn't even 10 years old.
I missed that. I thought he shot the old lady.
No, because
Way
remember,
over my head.
well, maybe this is a testament to like how messy the movie is, but like in the beginning, when the girls are all hanging out in the bedroom, Taylor brings
That wasn't
up
the same little
the
boy though.
urban
No.
legend. No, she doesn't talk about little boy. She talks about Mrs. Durr,
Yes.
the old ghost. So like that was established as a separate folk story before Uncle Vince talks about having shot a little boy.
Yeah, I thought he just shot the lady.
I don't think those two things were related. They could have been. I mean, well, they clearly were. Because the first real time you see Uncle Vince awake is when he's yelling out the door at what we assume is Ghost, because we just got that set up earlier. Like, hey, our neighbor disappeared, and he thought that, he was being watched. And that's kind of what Uncle Vince is doing. He's like, come and get me already. Like, why haven't I been punished yet? I mean, that's literally one of the lines I think he says when he.
I wanted to add that I wish they didn't show the old lady towards the end.
Yeah, do we want to go there now? Because I
Yes.
okay, well.
Oh,
Okay.
did you have something else you wanted to add? Because we can definitely.
Yeah,
Okay, go for it.
One other aspect I liked that I didn't take a note of, but I'm just remembering because it stuck with me. It's a bit after the girls pull their prank, and some of them come back to the house, and the girl who was crying the most.
Paige. How do I
Paige,
remember these
thank
names?
you.
I'm usually terrible with character names.
I know, right? So Paige is the one that's like having a mental breakdown.
Yes.
And she goes into the bathroom, and while she's in there, Emma's on her phone trying to figure out where the girls are. And while that's happening, Paige is in the bathroom, but she starts muttering, The walls are getting taller. I'm sinking. Everything's dark. And then when she finally goes in there, Emma does not see Paige at all. She's just gone.
Yes.
And I thought that was super effective and stuck with me because, like, it's not like she walks in and, her
Right.
body's all contorted. It was just like she's just not there.
Right.
And there's something very unsettling
Yeah.
about the fact that it didn't set up, like, a stereotypical jump scare I thought it would. It was just like, you're just gone. And there's something very naturally
And
unsettling about
I
that.
do also, I really enjoy that they went the route of people just flat out disappearing.
Into the floor, apparently.
Yes. But I'm a big fan of movies where people just disappear. Like that to me is something that is really terrifying
Yeah.
and more terrifying than getting, straight up murdered.
Yeah.
Because murdered, your body is still there.
Well, exactly. A lot of things you hear in murder mystery shows or movies, like real stories about missing people, is that their family just wants to know where they are, dead or alive.
Right.
They just want to know. They
Right.
want resolution.
Right.
And you don't get that when you have no clue where they go.
I'm going to mention a movie that I don't think that you have seen, but I have watched multiple times called Don't Blink. And if the idea of just someone vanishing freaks you out, definitely check it out. It is like a B/C level movie.
Well, I just tried to look up Don't Blink. And the first thing that comes up is Kenny Chesney.
I mean, it's probably yeah, nothing to do with the movie, but
No.
just that idea of someone disappearing, sometimes right in front of your eyes, definitely is a big highlight of that movie. But back to Let's Scare Julie, because I'm sure at one point we'll watch Don't Blink, because I'll force you to watch it.
Sure. So, I mean, obviously we were going to go over to the spooky house at some point.
Right.
And I do think there were some good moments there, too. Anytime we're with Emma and, like, she has to be quiet, it's definitely ripe with tension because...
Yes.
not that I've ever been in a situation, again, where a ghost has been stalking me and kidnapping all my friends, but I have had to get up in the middle of the night and, like, I don't want to wake someone, so I'm super quiet.
Right.
And you're kind of nervous you're going to wake them. So there is something, especially when you're in a stranger's house, I definitely felt some tension
And
there.
can we appreciate for the moment how normal that house looked?
Yeah.
Like they could have gone overboard to make it creepy, especially the way that, the urban legend was told.
Right.
But that house was staggeringly normal, and I love that.
I did too, now that you mentioned that.
They didn't make it look like a creepy old
cool.
woman had lived there before and all of that. It just looked like people had just moved in and it was a normal, suburban house.
So what happened to Julie? That was one thing I put, like,
so,
I wish I knew what happened to Julie.
What I'm thinking, I'm currently on the 16th season of Grey's Anatomy, so I have a medical degree. I'm assuming
you had to bring Grey's Anatomy into this podcast.
I have to. I'm almost done though. With I'm not gonna watch the currently airing season until it's completed. It's on Netflix. So it's clearly hinted at that Julie is a burn victim when Emma goes upstairs because there's a book on burn patients.
Oh, I didn't see
and
that.
And when you you didn't. It was like on the left when she was going up the stairs, and like there were like boxes and books.
Weird. Okay.
It was definitely there, and I kind of thought that she might be because they had described her with wearing a scarf on her face. So when Julie goes in the room and she's got the wrap around her face, and the other girls had described her kind of moving unnaturally.
Right.
Or shaking. I assumed that maybe she had had a seizure. Maybe the depends on how bad her burns are. The girls literally scared her to death. If her body is working overtime to deal with the burns, maybe her heart was weak because of that, and they literally scared her to death. So I think that she probably had a seizure that was, whether it was just a coincidence that the girls were there at that time or not. I think she definitely died of natural causes.
But I don't like that. I don't like that, like, the subplot, which really was supposed to be the plot because it's in the title. The stuff about Julie in the movie wasn't really the biggest conflict.
Right.
Julie herself, like, if you cut her out of the movie, the movie and all the conflict and the drama, and it would be the same.
But would it? What would they have gone to the house for?
I mean, they set it up where Taylor's like telling a spooky urban legend about the house across the
Yeah, but
street.
do you think they would have gone if they would have gone to the house if it was empty, if nobody had moved in there?
I mean, you could write it. You just write a different reason to go over there.
Shut up with your logic.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just felt like,
Now I get where you're going with it.
yeah, because like at some point you realize, like, okay, there's a supernatural element. There's this woman, this old ghost lady that's stalking them. Where the fuck's Julie? Where does she come back into this? And it's like, yeah, Emma goes over the house to find her baby sister, but then happens to find Julie and finds out she might be dead, and that's like it. It's just kind of like once she dies, she's mentioned by the other girls, but like she's just kind of a prop in the corner of the plot.
Right.
I don't know.
We'll just add it to the mess.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about spooky old lady?
So, this movie is clearly low budget. And that's fine. I have nothing. It's still a really new movie, so I couldn't find any actual like figures on what the budget was. But I could have gone without seeing the old lady. And I thought about the opening scene of It Follows. Obviously, in It Follows, you do definitely see the demon, but the opening scene where the girl is running out of her house and there's nothing there. You don't see anything. And it's so unsettling.
Right.
And I think that this movie could have definitely benefited from not showing the lady.
Yeah.
And I think that if they did have to show the old lady, like if they thought it was an integral part of the plot, fine. But I did not need the close up of the old lady because there's a shot, like I said, it's a lower budget movie. The makeup
It's not good.
was not good.
It's not good.
Like I said, lower budget is fine. It forces you to be creative. And I think that one of the things they could have done with that is just done away with the close up if it was a must to include the old lady.
Yeah, I mean,
Because you show us a blurry old lady in what looks like either a nightgown or a hospital gown, we're gonna be freaked out. You don't need to add the makeup. Like we're gonna get freaked out if you must show us that.
and like no discredit to the actress. I don't know what their like contract deal was. I don't know if she's like, hey, I need a close up. I need more screen time. But when they like turn and she's obviously right there in the hall,
Right.
and it's like camera's almost up to her face,
Yeah.
she just has the look I imagine a woman working at the DMV does. And she just got that look on her face.
Just the pure dead inside.
Yeah, and she's like bored with this woman, and I'm like, that's funny. I laughed, and I'm not supposed to be laughing.
Right, and it takes you out of the movie because it gets to be on the ridiculous side, which I don't like because,
Yeah,
it could have been a lot more effective.
very, very much.
Okay, so I don't know if we want to, like, discuss the ending. Do you want to?
Sure.
Okay, so I wrote in my notes, the ending kind of fell flat, and then in parentheses I put pun intended.
I love it.
Because the end of like you mentioned that they established throughout the whole movie that people when they disappear they're going into the floor.
Yeah, I got the pun. It was very good.
Well, I just wanted to set that up for the ending.
Oh, okay.
Like the ending of the movie is she's back in the house, right?
Yeah, Emma goes back to the house. She tucks her little sister to bed.
Right, and then she's walking downstairs and she keeps walking downstairs into the darkness and then the movie ends.
And she screams because why not?
Yes.
Ah!
I would have been happier if she would have tucked in her sister, the camera followed her out of the room, and then like the sister makes like a noise or something causes Emma to look away, and so the camera looks away, goes back, and Emma's gone. I literally did not need to see her going into the darkness. And I get why, because they wanted to show, where the others had gone.
Yes.
That reminds me of another movie called Uncanny Annie.
Great title.
It's a fun little horror movie. But anyways, yeah, I was not a fan of that ending.
Yeah.
It could have been simpler, and more effective.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, there are a number of things that could have been better. As hokey as it was, I would have been fine with ending the movie when she's like in the bathroom and sees the picture that's taken behind her, and she turns around, because they set that up at the beginning of the movie too.
Right.
That was part of the urban legend. I don't know why. I really don't know why anything.
Apparently, this witch ghost has your number from the afterlife.
Yeah, she hits up your digits and she gets you.
And having said all of that, I want to say that this movie got under my skin to the point that I was pretty freaked out afterwards.
Whoa, wait, rewind that. So you were freaked out after watching the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure why. It hit me a little bit, and this is the first movie in a while that I have been freaked out.
Wow.
Like, to the point I had to watch a couple Grey's Anatomy episodes before I went to bed.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know why it was, because obviously we said it wasn't a perfect movie. It wasn't a fantastic movie. It had its issues, and I don't know. I really think what it was it did such a good job at the beginning of building the suspense and the slow and almost painful pacing of the movie just caused this anxiety to build up in me. And it just freaked me out. I mean, I wouldn't call it like a full nope moment. Definitely like a mini nope. It's since faded and I'm fine. It's not a movie that has stuck with me and kept me freaked out like, Hereditary, where I was, afraid to look down the street when I was walking my dog because I was going to see Toni Collette. But which that lasted for a few months. So it was definitely just something that I was just freaked out to immediately go to bed afterwards.
Yeah.
Which happens sometimes with X-Files episodes. So take that as you will. But yeah, I wanted to add that in, that it did actually freak me out and get under my skin. And honestly, it's been a little bit since a horror movie has done that to me. So.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I literally said this out loud when the movie cut to credits.
Did it fit under our little, I didn't enjoy it, but I liked it?
No.
No, it didn't fit under it? Wow.
Not quite. No, because that's a very weird...
Yeah, I know.
So people understand, for those listening, I watched Godzilla vs. Kong, and my comment to Becca was, I enjoyed it, but I didn't like it.
That was it, yeah.
So take that for what you will.
Well, that's our new basis for rating horror movies now.
No, this was a pretty clear, it was okay.
Right. And I said, I don't think it was a great movie. It just, the pacing and the suspense building of the movie definitely did have an effect on me, despite the major issues I did have with it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I pointed out a few things I did like, and I appreciate that this movie was setting up a modern day sort of urban legend, and as messy and complex as it was, I thought it was a good attempt. It was admirable. A bit too on the nose, though. It's just a very anti-bullying kind of...
Right. And speaking of that, the other unneeded messy plot point that they added in there was the fact that apparently Emma had bullied some girl from her old school or whatever, and the girl had committed suicide. Like, that was brought out from nowhere.
Right.
I don't know if it was fully necessary to the plot at all. I just wanted to add that in because I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, it felt like it was ham-fisted in there to make the point, which is weird because, I never once got the sense that Emma was that kind of character.
Right. It seemed very out of character for her.
And I didn't think she needed to be.
Yeah.
Because, I liked her enough, just not being like, I too bullied someone once. And now they're dead. Don't ever do that, little sister. Be a good person. Goodbye forever.
Spoken like a true teenage girl.
Well, I agree that I still think it was just way more effective, way scarier when we didn't see things. And then it got way less scarier when we did.
Right.
And again, I use the word admirable. I do think that it was an admirable attempt that the movie was trying to make to be... It's not anything new to be like, hey, it's a one-take, real-time movie.
But it's not new, but I would say that it's rare.
And I've seen it done better, like you just said, yes. Silent House. I remember that movie sticking with me and thinking, hey, this is pretty neat. Obviously, way bigger budget, But
I mean, was it that big of a budget though? Because it was an independent. It was before Elizabeth Olsen was Wanda.
right, there's definitely some moments in that movie I remember that had some super like complicated
Okay,
effects.
I haven't watched it in a while. I own it. I just haven't watched it in a while, so I don't. I didn't
Right.
remember.
But yeah, I guess the point is like that stuck with me, and I don't see this movie sticking with me for very long. It just there wasn't enough memorable moments to be like, oh wow, let's scare Julie. I remember that one. I don't know that it's one I'm probably gonna pick up and watch again right away.
Well, do we want to get into our final thoughts about the movie?
Let's at least cover, Becca, one of your things you usually bring up is something you like to call beware the glare.
Yes. I take a lot of issue with glare on televisions when I'm watching something. I would live in a pure dark environment if I didn't own a dog and I don't want to keep him in a dark room all the time.
Did you get that in this movie?
I would definitely suggest watching it when the sun is not up or in a dark room because it takes place at night. So while there are scenes that are well lit in the house, it's a movie that takes place fully at night. So definitely I would beware the glare.
Yeah.
I would like to compare things to the television show Salem, which takes place before electricity was a thing. And that is one show that's a good glare tester because the nighttime shots of that show, there's no light anywhere aside from candles. So it's not Salem level of Beware the Glare, but I could see it definitely affecting my viewing of this movie. So if you're somebody who hates the freaking glare on the TV, save this one for either super early in the morning or late at night or shut your blackout curtains.
Yeah. Well, with that said, I've touched all my bases with the movie. We want to get into final thoughts?
Yeah, so just to give a little background of this, we have a Letterboxd account, which Letterboxd is a amazing site where you can keep track of the movies that you have watched. You can rate them, you can leave reviews. So we have an account for the podcast and it's just SWTLO. You can follow us on there to see, what we've watched and what we've rated. And we will definitely follow you back on there.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to give kind of a rating at the movie at the end at the movie. A rating out of 5 stars, and then we kind of average it out to give the rating for the podcast.
Yeah.
Overall, like my thoughts of this movie, I think the pacing and the build up was definitely good. The plot was a good idea. I think that there were issues with its execution.
Right.
There were definitely times that I was taken out of the movie, unfortunately, and there were things that could have been simplified. In terms of what I like to call rewatchability, it's not there. I think you will be surprised by my rating though. But it's not a movie that I'm gonna go back and rewatch. Never say never, but I don't think I will.
Right.
I like the plot idea, but it's not one that I'm gonna go back and like rewatch just to have something horror to watch. Then I do have horror movies that I love to rewatch over and over again. One being Devil from I think 2010, which is wholly underrated in my opinion, and it is one of my favorite movies to turn on when it's a rainy day.
Hot take.
Hot take. Yes.
Hot take.
I know it's not a beloved movie, and that's fine. It's beloved by me. But yeah, my rewatchability for this movie is very low, but surprisingly, I actually gave it 3.5 stars out of 5 because it did freak me out. It got under my skin enough. I think that they did a really good job with the teenage girls.
Right.
And making it feel very realistic to the point that I was very annoyed, which is great.
Yeah.
They did a great job with that, and they also did a really good job building the suspense. And it was decent plot idea, but yeah, 3.5 out of 5. It might be it's definitely high in terms of the Letterboxd average. And some people might be really questioning my taste in movies after this, but that's fine. Like it freaked me out. It got under my skin. It was, what I like with a horror movie. Not one I'm going to rewatch. And I don't know if it would be one that I would fully recommend if I had like more friends.
What a sad thing to say.
It's not one like I don't know if we hadn't watched it. I don't know if I would recommend it to you.
Sure, I get that.
Yeah. All right. So what did Brian think of it?
I already said that I'm not chomping at the bit to watch it again, but I think that there were some good things in it that kind of stick with me, or at least things that I could appreciate, like the acting. How much of it was acting and how much of it was the girls being natural, I don't know, but it felt very authentic. I said repeatedly that I like the bit of urban lore that they made up about people just disappearing. The matter in which they disappeared was very spooky, so I did actually dig that. So for those reasons, I'm not going to give it a totally shitty review.
A rating.
Rating, sorry. I'm not going to give a totally shitty rating,
Okay.
but I do think I would have given it a little less had it not been for good performances and that stuff. So I don't think we're actually that far off with this one. I give it a 3 out of 5.
That's interesting. I wasn't expecting you to like it as much as you did, which is kind of funny because, again, I was wrong. Like I always am. So I'm okay with giving this a 3 out of 5 for the podcast. Because the average is 3.25, and I think this is more of a 3 than a 3.5 for both of us.
Yeah.
So I have added that to our letterbox.
We are not good at math, y'all. That's why we do this.
Yeah, and that's why I work for a bank, because I'm not good at math.
Well, whoops.
That's why there's calculators and,
Yes.
all the electronic stuff that makes it so I don't have to do math.
Mm-hmm.
So our next episode is going to be on the movie Spring.
It is fitting. It is spring time.
It is spring, and it is a movie that came out in 2014. It is currently available to stream on Hulu, Shudder, and then Tubi, which Tubi is another free streaming service. It does come with ads, but to me that's never been an issue. I love Tubi so much. So definitely, if you want to, watch it before the next episode and, figure out your opinions along with us, that would be great. We can be found on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, SWTLO Podcast. If you want to email us, if you want to give us recommendations or your thoughts.
Or you want to email us and say, you suck.
Which I will just immediately forward to Brian. Our email address is streamingwiththelights all one word, @gmail.com.
Yep.
And we like to do just kind of an update of what's being added to streaming services. So over on Amazon Prime, Spontaneous, which is a really new one, which I looked very interested in. Looked very interesting to me.
Oh, God. I'm going to edit this.
And then Paranormal Activity 4, I Saw the Devil, and Blair Witch, which is the newest addition to the Blair Witch verse.
Right.
And then over on HBO Max, we finally have The New Mutants, which is an X-Men horror movie, which Brian disagreed with me on. I haven't seen, so I can't say whether or not it is. Hoopla, we have, which is again a free service offered by, U.S. libraries. And unfortunately, right now these are all stuff that is available in the United States. If we ever get international listeners, I will definitely include international ones. But as of right now, there's probably about 3 people that I know for sure are going to listen to this, and they're all in America, and they are all related to me. So that's fine. Over on Hoopla, you have The Shed, PG Psycho Gorman, which is going to be a later episode that we're going to do in May for the podcast, the remake of Castle Freak, and Day of the Dead from 2008. I didn't dig into this. I don't think it's part of the Romero-verse, but I'm not entirely sure. I feel like it's not related. But Day of the Dead is there if you want some zombies. And then over on Hulu,
yes.
Hulu also got Spontaneous and Paranormal Activity 4. Netflix got Crimson Peak, The Fourth Kind, and Synchronic, which we will watch eventually at some point, because that is a new horror sci-fi. And then over on Peacock, one of my favorites, the original Cabin Fever. If you need, I don't know if you would need more virus in your life right now, but if you do, cabin fever
Oh,
is
too
cabin
soon.
fever is there for you. Definitely a different kind of virus, thank God. Over on Shudder got The Day of the Beast. Stars got the 1998 Vampires. Over on Tubi, Stephen King Dreamcatcher, that one, Interview with the Vampire. Starfish, which is a sci-fi horror kind of. Braid, and then Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte if you want to go classic with it. And then over on the
Ooh.
free version of Voodoo, which is again with ads, but it's free. Eaten Alive, Murder Party, Dave Made a Maze, Chop Chop, and the horror documentary Cropsy. So plenty of options to check out in April, which is halfway to Halloween. So we're not lacking horror content.
Yeah.
Yay for that.
Oh, well, I guess that about does it.
Thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, even if you didn't make it this far, thank you for listening. We really appreciate it because we really love horror movies and we like doing this. So, yeah.
Boy, first episode jitters. I don't know. How do we end this episode? What's our outro?
Well, thank you for listening to Streaming with the Lights On. Stream you later. That's not going to be it.
I was gonna say that's mine.
Stream you later. I guess just remember that you are not a chicken if you watch horror movies with the lights on. It's perfectly fine. So if you get freaked out, just turn on the lights.
There you go. Oh, that was a nice little ending.
Well, thank you so much. We'll be back next time.
Stream you later.